Well, hello and welcome back. My name is MaryAnn Walker, and I'm the life coach for the helpers, the healers, and the recovering people pleasers. And today I want to talk about something that many highly sensitive people wrestle with. And they often do this without even realizing it. It's codependency. So if you've ever caught yourself constantly scanning the emotional temperature of the room, if you find yourself calming other people down before you've even had a chance to recognize how it is that you feel, if you've ever said yes just to keep the peace or felt guilty for needing space, then this episode is for you. Because while it might seem like you're being helpful, kind, and accommodating, then these behaviors are often signs that you actually believe that I cannot feel okay unless everybody around me feels okay, which is a sign of codependency. So first, what is codependency? Codependency is when your sense of identity or personal stability, it becomes enmeshed with someone else's. So you might feel personally responsible for managing their emotions, for solving their problems, for keeping their relationship afloat by taking on the lion's share of the responsibility in a relationship. And you may be doing all of this even at the cost of your own self. So in short, codependency is the habit of abandoning yourself to be there for other people. It's wanting to control other people's perceptions or emotional experience so that we can feel good. This is all a form of self-preservation. So here are a few subtle signs of codependency. Maybe you prioritize other people's needs before checking in with your own. So you're saying yes to something before you've even had the opportunity to look at your calendar. Maybe you feel anxious or guilty anytime that you set a boundary. Maybe you base your self-worth on how helpful, needed, or liked you are. In fact, many codependents, they struggle to understand the difference between being needed and being liked. So they put themselves into situations where they will feel needed because this helps them to think, okay, well then I must be liked because they need me. You may feel personally responsible for how other people feel, even when it's not yours to carry. You might find yourself remaining silent to avoid conflict, even when it's something that really matters to you. So the problem with codependency is that it pulls us out of alignment. It essentially teaches us to perform in order to get the reactions or the emotional response that we would like, much like an actor on the stage. It's like, if I just do it this way, then I'll get the reaction that I'm looking for. But it essentially teaches us to please and to placate other people and teaches us that we need to prove our self-worth through self-sacrifice. But real love isn't about overextending yourself. It's more about finding connection, mutual care, and mutual respect. So why do codependents feel responsible for other people's emotions? More than likely at some point in life, probably in childhood, then you may have been praised for being the easy one, the helper, the comedic relief, the good kid. You probably learned early on that being calm, agreeable, pleasant, and accommodating, that's what was going to earn you love and affection. Or at the very least, it was going to help you to avoid conflict, which also helped you to feel safe and secure. Maybe you were raised in a home where big emotions felt dangerous. And so naturally, you learned, oh, well, I'll just learn how to manage other people's emotions in a way that will help me to feel safe. And that's where the false belief gets planted that, well, if I can keep everybody else happy, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be safe. Then I'll be loved. Then I'll be enough. But here's the problem is it doesn't actually make you feel safe or loved. In fact, the truth is that more than likely, it's probably making you feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells. It's making you feel like you're personally responsible for other people's well-being. It's leaving you feeling burned out and possibly even resentful. And not only that, but you might also be experiencing frustration as you learn that number one, you actually can't control how other people think and feel, no matter how accommodating you are. And number two, you might actually be perpetuating their immature behavior as you are taking on the majority of the emotional load. So what is the cost of living this way? First, then there's the hypervigilance. This is the walking on eggshells. It's feeling like you're constantly scanning the room, attempting to read everybody's body language. You constantly are adjusting yourself and your environment in an attempt to keep the peace. But this is kind of like emotional whack-a-mole. You never get to rest. You have to always be on the lookout because what if a negative emotion pops up? Then I got to smack it down real quick so that I can still feel safe and secure. But all of those things are out of our control. Second, there is the suppression of our own needs. You may find that you're so focused on how other people are doing that you don't even take the time to notice when it is that your cup is empty. You don't notice until you're completely burned out. And that's not helpful for anyone. In fact, you might even envy those people around you as they're getting their needs met. For example, maybe you see them doing some stretching or going to a sauna or having a self-care day, and you think, boy, I wish that I could do that. But you have trained yourself to delay getting your needs met until everyone else's needs are met. And third, then there's the resentment piece. When you realize that other people don't go to the same lengths for you. And honestly, how could they? Because more than likely, you've never given them the chance. You're trying to beat them to the punch constantly because that's how you're trying to prove your worth. So let me give you a few examples of what this can look like in real life. So example number 1, you notice that your partner is quiet and withdrawn after work. Maybe rather than asking them what it is that they need or allowing them space to think and feel and maybe initiate coming to you with a need, instead of waiting for them to take the lead on that, then you might be preemptively trying to make them better. So you don't even ask them what's going on. You just assume they need me to fix this, and then you might discover that you're making the dinner, you're cleaning the house, you're walking on eggshells so that nothing else triggers them, keeping the kids quiet, doing all the things, you're trying to cheer them up. And it's not because they asked you to do these things, but it's because you feel anxious when they're upset. All right, example number 2. A friend is going through a really hard time. And again, you're dropping everything. You're canceling your own plans. You're skipping your own rest and rejuvenation in order to be their emotional support system. You're dropping everything to show up for them. And then eventually you start to feel drained, but you keep going because, well, I don't want them to feel alone. You're prioritizing what it is that they want and need in the moment. But you're doing so at the risk of your own self. And meanwhile, they might not be showing up for you in the way that you would like. And you might find that while you're not technically alone, you're feeling more alone than ever. And it's because you've created this imbalance where I'm going to keep showing up for them and I'm not going to enable any situations where they're going to be able to show up for me because that's going to make me feel really uncomfortable. In fact, you might feel extremely uncomfortable when people do things for you because silently in your mind, you have this point system where I have to keep doing for others so that I can stack up the points in my favor to prove my worth, to prove that I'm lovable, to prove that I'm invested. We have this scorekeeping going on in our mind, but it's actually keeping us at an emotional deficit. All right, example number 3. Maybe at work you notice that your coworker is stressed out, and so you stay late to help them with their projects even though your own deadlines are suffering. And you might tell yourself that, well, I'm just being helpful, but really you're trying to manage their stress because you feel so uncomfortable at work hearing them talk about how stressed out they are, watching them kind of stomp around and be frustrated with things. It's like, I can't handle this and I cannot focus on my work. So I'm going to help them to manage and regulate their emotions because they appear out of control right now so that I can feel better and I can do my work. But this is also kind of enabling them, where now we're essentially training them that, oh, if I huff and puff around the office, then they're going to come and rescue me. Right? So it kind of creates these imbalances in relationship. Does this sound familiar? Well, when we start to make our well-being conditional upon other people's well-being, then we keep ourselves in limbo. It's like waking up and saying, well, I don't know what kind of a day I'm going to have because I don't know what mood they're going to be in. It is forfeiting your personal power. It's making you a victim of other people's moods. It's shrinking yourself, and it's crazy making because there's no way to predict what mood other people are going to be in. There's no way to predict what's going to set them off. And I get it. You've been so hyper-tuned to other people that, to be honest and to be fair, you're actually pretty good at predicting it most of the time as to what it is other people might need. But when you're preemptively jumping in before there's even been a request made, you might actually be enabling rather than helping in the situation, which is going to create that burnout and that resentment for you. This is also why so many people pleasers become empaths. Like, yes, I do believe that you can train yourself to become an empath. People pleasers believe that if I can just become hypersensitive to everybody around me, then I'll be able to predict the mood. I'll be able to predict their want. I'll be able to predict their desire, the frustration. And then I can meet those needs and wants before there's any kind of emotional upset. And then I will never be upset by extension, right? If I can make sure everybody else is good, then I'll be good. It'll be just fine. And so they actually attune themselves to other people in an attempt to keep themselves safe. But as you know, we can't actually control other people. And while we may be somewhat accurate in our assessment of the situation, we cannot actually do so with 100% accuracy. And placing our well-being into the hands of other people, especially if they're an emotionally immature person because we've enabled them, they've never actually had the opportunity to learn how to process their own emotions. So If we're in a relationship with somebody that is emotionally immature and we're choosing to regulate their emotions for them rather than allowing them to learn how to do it themselves, it actually keeps us more on edge rather than actually helping them to learn how to regulate their emotions and helping us to learn how to regulate our own emotions as well. So what can be done? Number one, recognize the pattern. Start by noticing if you're feeling the urge to fix someone else's emotions. Try asking yourself, am I trying to make them feel better so that I can feel better? And this is the beginning of self-awareness. And that awareness gives you a choice. When you are fixing so that you feel better, then you might inadvertently be prolonging your own discomfort. For example, if you're constantly jumping in to help out your frazzled coworker, then they may never learn how to complete a task on their own. This means that in an attempt to keep yourself comfortable, you may be creating even more discomfort for yourself as you find yourself stepping in for just one more project again and again and again, and finding yourself feeling drained. So recognize that your stepping in may actually be perpetuating a negative pattern and create a little bit of interference. Start to break the cycle by showing up differently. Allow them to experience a little bit of discomfort and practice allowing yourself to also learn how to experience discomfort and learn how to navigate that. That's how we all learn and grow. And number two, it's just allowing. It's allowing that discomfort without trying to control it. It's okay if somebody else is upset. Their discomfort does not mean that you are unsafe or unlovable. And I'm going to say that again. Just because someone else is experiencing a negative emotion, just because somebody else is uncomfortable, it doesn't mean that you are unsafe and it doesn't mean that you are unlovable. Your brain might try to tell you that you're not safe, and that's just the brain's way of keeping you safe. Your primitive mind equates discomfort with a lack of personal safety. But just because you're uncomfortable, it doesn't mean that you're not safe. And of course, I'm going to say that yes, if you are actually unsafe, get help, get yourself to safety. But start to recognize and differentiate between, am I actually unsafe or is my nervous system just telling me that I'm not safe? And really the worst case scenario right now is that somebody's going to have a negative emotion. Okay, more than likely, the worst case scenario is that somebody's going to be a little bit uncomfortable and they're going to have to learn how to navigate that. And that's true for other people, and that's true for us as well. So instead of rushing to smooth things over, then try just sitting with that discomfort. Practice self-soothing instead of people-soothing, okay? Or practice self-pleasing instead of people-pleasing. So that might mean pausing and taking a few deep breaths, taking some time to regulate your nervous system before you state a boundary with somebody, if you have to tell somebody no. Take that time to really take a few deep breaths and regulate yourself, okay? It might mean grounding yourself with one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly. And again, taking a few deep breaths, it can be very helpful here. It might mean journaling on what it is that you are actually feeling. Oftentimes we become so consumed with what other people might be feeling that we don't even take the time to acknowledge how it is that we're feeling. So separating those out a little bit, especially if you're an empath, it's really easy to say, well, I'm feeling angry because they're feeling angry. No. You're not feeling their anger oftentimes. We got to separate it out a little bit and differentiate self that I can see that they're angry and I am feeling uncomfortable with their anger. Differentiate that self a little bit. Create a little bit of energetic and emotional space there. All right, and tip number 3, investigate what it is that you actually need. Shift the spotlight off of them and onto you. What are your emotions right now? How are you feeling? Again, more than likely, the worst case scenario is that you're going to feel a little bit uncomfortable as somebody learns how to navigate their own emotions. So just acknowledge it, that I'm feeling anxious right now because I don't know what to do. I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable right now because they're really acting out and I don't know what to do, right? Just acknowledge what you are feeling and differentiate yourself here. Are you using somebody else's discomfort as a distraction from your own? Sometimes we've neglected our own emotions so much that is how we've learned how to regulate is, no, I need to be focused on everybody else because then I don't have to change. I don't have to learn how to manage myself. I can make it mean that, no. If I can just navigate things with them, if I can fix their feelings, then I'll feel better. But that's very disempowering. Okay, so let's kind of go through a few more examples. So let's say, for example, that your child is really worked up about an assignment that is due the next morning and they haven't even started on it. You might feel the need to jump in and to fix it, to leave the house, to get all of the supplies last minute and help them to get it done. So check in with yourself when you feel that urge, because maybe there's something else going on for you. Maybe part of you believes that it's going to reflect poorly on you as a parent if it's not done on time and if it's not done to your standard. But I want you to think about, what is it that I really, really want? Because the fight or flight response is going to say, I must fix this now. The codependency is going to say, I got to make this better. I have to smooth things over. But take some time to think about, what is it that I really want? Is what I really want is for this particular assignment to be done on time and to my standard last minute? Or is there something I want more than that? For example, do I want my child to learn how to be responsible for their own assignments and their own timelines and ultimately become a more responsible adult? If that's what it is that you actually want, then stepping in and doing all of the work for them last minute, it's not actually going to get you closer to your goal, but it's going to get you further away from your long-term goal. So yes, it might be uncomfortable in the moment, but this is an incredible learning opportunity and an extremely valuable lesson for both you and your child. It's a valuable lesson for you because you have to check in with, what is it that I want most right now? And it's also a valuable lesson for your child, where when your child is able to experience that discomfort of forgetting about the assignment until last minute, it's going to make it less likely that they're going to be neglecting their own little agenda, right? And see what's due. They're going to be more likely to actually follow through on assignments because you're allowing them to experience that discomfort. Okay. All right. Tip number 4, nurture yourself with self-compassion. Remind yourself that I am allowed to feel okay, even if other people are not okay. Something that's really interesting to see is sometimes we really do allow other people to dictate how we feel. For example, let's say that your friend is having relationship issues. You might find yourself actually talking more negatively about your relationship where actually everything's going okay in an effort to make them feel better. But it's okay for you to be okay. It's okay for you to feel secure in your relationship, even if they're feeling insecure in theirs. Okay, so just remind yourself, I'm allowed to feel okay even if others aren't feeling okay. You're not being selfish. You're not abandoning anyone, but you're just working to find that peace within yourself. Okay, so try out some different affirmations. For example, what's mine is mine and what's theirs is theirs. I am responsible for regulating my own emotions and they are responsible for regulating theirs. I can support others without losing myself in the process. My safety and self-worth are not dependent on other people's moods. So here's your challenge for the week. As step 1, I want you to kind of notice yourself if you're trying to fix someone else's emotions. Okay? Then pause and ask yourself, am I doing this because I can't tolerate their discomfort? Or is it because they truly need my help? And then step 3, practice self-soothing instead of people-soothing. Stay with you for a little moment longer. Maybe you do still choose to help them ultimately, but when you notice that you're jumping in because you feel uncomfortable, take that moment to stay with you and your own discomfort. Take some time to breathe. Maybe you want to take some time to journal on it. And then just ground yourself and repeat as needed, okay? And I get it that this work is simple, but that doesn't mean it's always easy. Breaking free from codependency, breaking free from people-pleasing to self-regulate, it can feel terrifying at first because you're confronting your own feelings that you have never wanted to address before. You might be doing that for the first time. But every time that you choose to tend to your own emotions and your own nervous system, instead of jumping in to manage somebody else's, then you're actually taking a huge step towards getting your power back. And not only your power, but you're allowing space for somebody else to do that for themselves as well, for them to learn how to self-regulate. You do not need everybody else to be okay in order for you to feel okay. Regulating other people's emotions is emotional dependency. It's not peace. And you're allowed to build something that is much stronger and more in your control, which is emotional resiliency. Now, if you need support as you're learning how to regulate your own emotions, set boundaries, and reconnect with your sense of self, I would love to help. I'm currently filling up my schedule for fall, and I would love to work with you. So you can come to my website, MaryAnnWalker.life, or click the link in the show notes to come and book a free clarity call with me. We can gain some clarity in just a 30-minute phone call to kind of see what might be showing up for you and how coaching might be supportive for you. And as always, if this episode resonated with you, I encourage you to share it with somebody who you think could also benefit from it. You never know who's been trying to hold it all together, waiting to hear that they can just finally let go. All right, well, I hope you have a great week, and let's talk soon. Bye now.